Hello everyone, GoldenNova here and welcome to Field Test, a series where we sleeve up my latest experiment and see how it operates out in the wild. If you want to see me run these decks through their paces live or perhaps catch a duel with me, you can find me right here on YouTube every Friday at 8 PM Central Time. Subscribing will make sure you're up to date on new releases, and if you want to stay in the loop on any updates, follow the link in the description for my Twitter, or you can join our Discord to hang out with me and the rest of the community. Okay, shameless self-promotion aside, let's talk about today's thought experiment, Mayakashi. Despite the implementation of Master Rule 5, links continue to be a driving force in the game. While their arrows are no longer needed to facilitate their fusion, synchro, and xyz partners, they're still some of the easiest, accessible, and powerful monsters you can call from the extra deck. But more than that, they've irrevocably left their mark on a number of archetypes from the Master Rule 4 era, and that includes our skeleton crew. Back then, the idea of synchro climbing was absolutely absurd, because you had to spend at least 2 other monsters to make a link before you could even think about making more than one, and if you committed your synchro to your extra monster zone, then you better have been really confident in what you got, because you wouldn't be summoning any of their extra deck buddies along with them. Mayakashi were built around this by not only including their own link monster, but also by giving you a quick way to properly summon a lot of synchros before loading them into the grave so they can be summoned later, which conveniently bypasses the extra monster zone restriction. Unfortunately, they're saddled with a lot of their own restrictions due to their immortal tuner gimmick. Having any main deck non-tuner of the theme on board locks you into only summoning Mayakashi from the extra deck, and using any of your tuner's revival effects simply locks you into that no matter what, so the deck is less zombie synchro and more yokai turbo. This deck wasn't particularly meta-relevant when it arrived on the scene, but now that the link arrow limitation has been lifted, can the archetype even manage to play outside the environment it was cultivated in? That's what we're here to find out today, as we test out Mayakashi. If you're not up to date on what Mayakashi are capable of, there's a link in the top right for you with a rundown of all currently available cards in the archetype. But if you're all caught up, let's take a look at the list I piloted. Now, you may be reviewing this brew and saying, Nova, I thought you were playing Mayakashi, not bad Eldlich, to which I would respond, A, every zombie deck nowadays that isn't Eldlich will invariably be propped up by this enormous economic entity. Eldlich is still $80 by the way. And B, Mayakashi have received very little in terms of legacy support, so in terms of playables we don't have very many. However, despite a number of restrictions inherent to the theme, they still play marginally well with a vast majority of zombie support, especially because of Yuki Musume, a foolish for any zombie we could ever want. And like the greedy, polyamorous bisexual that I am, I wanted to run as many of them as possible, so we're on a 60 card variant that runs the entire spectrum. Let's do a breakdown of the list. For monsters, we're playing 3 Hajun, 1 Daki, 1 Tsukahagi, 1 Sheifu, 2 Yuki Musume, 3 Eldlich, 1 Baylor Drak, 3 Shiranui Solitaire, 3 Shiranui Spirit Master, 3 Unizombie, 3 Mizuki, 2 Necroworld Banshee, and 1 Glow Up Bloom. For spells, we're on 3 Mayakashi Return, 2 Mayakashi Winter, 3 Cursed Eldland, 2 Black Eldlixir, 1 White Eldlixir, 1 Seven Realms of the Golden Land, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, and 2 Zombie World. For traps, we have 2 Mayakashi Metamorphosis, 1 Mayakashi Mayhem, 3 Red Eldlixir, 2 Golden Land Conquistador, 2 Golden Land Hakuero, 2 Golden Land Guardian, 2 Shiranui style Swallow Slash, and 3 Back to the Front. In the extra, we're running 1 Oboro Garuma, 1 Tsuchigumo, 1 Tengu, 1 Yoko, 1 Gashadokuro, 1 Elray Conquista Eldlich, 2 Ice Yukiona, 2 Absolute Zero Yukiona, 1 Vampire Sucker, 1 Avendred Slayer, 1 Shiranui Skills Saga Supremacy, 1 Access Code Talker, and 1 Avramax. Now, let's move on to the test footage. Our first duel is up against the Beaver Brawler themselves, Fusion Yu-Gi-Oh! However, they've traded in their water rodent for something a bit more Halloween themed, the creepy crawlers. Let's see how these JRPG jobbers deal with getting busted by ghosts. We'll start by playing Cursed Eldland and pay 800 life points to add Guardian of the Golden Land from the deck to the hand. Then we'll play Foolish Burial, sending Hajun from the deck to the grave. We'll normal summon Solitaire, using their effect to tribute themselves and summon Unizombie from the deck. We'll use their first effect, sending Eldlich from the deck to the grave, then use that Eldlich's effect, sending Eldland from the grave to summon themselves back to the field. Eldland will trigger, sending Hakuero from deck to grave, then Unizombie will use their second effect, discarding the Mizuki. We'll use Mizuki to summon Hajun from the grave, then activate their effect to summon Daki from the deck. We'll begin the Synchro climb by summoning Oboro Garuma, which will summon back Daki, then Synchro for Tsuchigumo, which will summon back Daki, then Synchro for Tengu, which will then summon back Daki, then Synchro for Yoko, which then summons back Daki, Synchro for Gashadokuro, summon back Daki, and we'll use both of them to link summon Ice Yukiona, which will summon back the Daki, and we'll use them, Ice Yuki and Unizombie to make Absolute Zero Yuki, which will then summon back the Daki. We'll set 2, and during the end phase, we'll banish Hakuero from grave to set Scarlet Sanguine from deck to the field, then pass to our opponent. They'll start by playing World Legacy in Shadow, setting 2 back row and a monster, then using Shadow to special summon Gleal from their hand face down. They'll move to end phase and we'll activate both Scarlet Sanguine and Guardian, summoning our Trap Monster and a Yuki Musume from deck. With that, they'll pass to us. We'll start by banishing Scarlet Sanguine from grave to set 7 realms from our deck to the field. We'll link away Musume and Daki for Ice Yuki to clear our extra deck lock, then activate 7 realms, fusing Eldlich and Guardian to make the new Eldlich fusion, El Rey. This will trigger 7 realms, locking down one of their set back row, then we'll send our set Metamorphosis to grave to summon Eldlich from the grave, then activate Musume, summoning themselves and sending Baylor Drog from deck to grave. We don't want to lose any important monsters to Shadow, so we'll use Ice Yuki to attack one of their monsters, but we hit Spine. It's boosted so we don't run over it, and they'll use their Man-Eater Bug effect to try and destroy Rey, but thankfully, it's safe from that. We'll have regular Eldlich attack over Gleal, and they'll chain down Omniscius, targeting and banishing Zero Yuki. Then Gleal will use their effect to summon the Ranveer they just discarded. At this point, Shadows will trigger, sending Eldlich to the grave because it does not destroy, and we'll move to main phase 2. We'll use El Rey to tribute Musume to take control of Crawler's Spine, we'll set 1, and during the end phase, we'll banish Guardian from the grave to set a Scarlet Sanguine from deck to field, and with that, we'll pass to our opponent. On their turn, we'll flip Sanguine, but this does allow them to summon Dinomishus from grave. We'll summon Necroworld Banshee, which will trigger 7 realms to lock their back row. We'll activate Necroworld, banishing themselves to activate Zombie World to the field, and in standby, Baylor Drog will summon themselves from the grave. They'll flip up Ranveer to add their Yarded Gleal from their grave to the hand, but since it's now a zombie, we'll use the Doom King to banish Gleal before the effect can resolve. They'll use their remaining level 2 monsters to summon the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin, activating their effect to zero out El Rey, but Baylor Drog has 1 more effect left, and will use it to negate Javelins. They'll set 1, then we'll activate Guardian, which will let them summon the Dinomishus that was hiding under Javelin, that slippery bogle. Guardian will zero out said Javelin, then they'll pass to us. On our turn, we'll link summon another Zero Yuki, and they'll pay to activate Solemn Judgment in response. Because a link monster in our possession was destroyed, Gashadokuro can summon themselves, which will activate the Doom King, and will chain Scarlet Sanguine. We'll set a Hakuero, banishing their spine from grave, then summon out the Dark Papyrus, which will activate 7 realms, letting us lock out their back row. In battle phase, Baylor Drog will attack over Javelin, Gashadokuro will walk over Dinomishus, and we'll clean things up with El Rey to take the game. Our next game is up against longtime friend of the channel, WizScythe, piloting the enigmatic Evil Eyes. Sadly, I lost some great footage out of our match, but I feel like this game in particular encapsulates what both decks are capable of rather well. It's time for these occult opponents to square off. We'll start by playing Mayakashi Return to search for Hajun, normal summon them to special summon Daki, and begin the Synchro Ascension. You know, sometimes I wonder why they went to such lengths to keep Mayakashi from accessing other synchros like Hyper Librarian, but stuff like Adamancipator and Dragon Link still gets made. Like, yeah, power creep and all, but Mayakashi's only 2 years old. Pretty crazy escalation. When that's done, we'll activate Zombie World, set 2, and pass to our opponent. They'll activate Pot of Extravagance, drawing 2, and activating Lightning Storm. They choose spells and traps, and will chain back to the front to get some value out of it. We'll summon Gashadokuro, making it immune to all effects. They'll go right to battle phase and drop the Evenly Matched from hand. Yikes. They'll go to main phase 2 and start setting up. They'll play Evil Eye Pareidolia to grab Basilius, then normal summon Serziel. Their effect will be activated, grabbing a Reemergence from deck, then they'll special summon Basilius from their hand. Then they'll equip the Evil Eye of Gorgoneo to the Danger Noodle before activating Reemergence. This will make 2 tokens because they technically control an Evil Eye of Selene, then they'll use those tokens in Basilius to link summon Zerziel. Then they'll use Gorgoneo from grave, discarding a Selene to search another Selene. They'll equip 1 to Zerziel, and after banishing Reemergence to grab back the Yarded Selene, equip it to Serziel. This will trigger the first one, draining them for 500 life points and giving them to Zerziel as attack points. Then they'll pass to us. On our turn, we'll lead with Solitaire, but the moment it hits board, it'll get destroyed by Zerziel, triggering its equipped Selene. We'll move Megalovania to attack mode, but I, as it turns out, am just as capable of not reading as anyone else. We'll both take 1700 points of damage, and during main phase 2, we'll activate Eldlich of Black Awakening to summon Eldlich, but during the end phase we'll fetch the destruction from Serziel, blowing up said Golden Lord and activating their equipped Selene. On their turn, Serziel's effect will trigger, destroying their own field spell, empowering their Evil Eye, and getting them back Basilius. Zerziel will also activate on a mandatory trigger, causing them another drain. They'll go to battle phase and they'll attack over Gashadokuro, which triggers Yoko. We'll try to use their effect in vain, but then they'll use Surzeal's effect to get rid of them. This will trigger Tengu, summoning them, which will fetch the Surzeal's destruction, but not before Tengu goes after their Evil Eye. This will trigger Tsuchigumo, milling us both for 3, then Surzeal will attack over Spider Ghost, which will summon Oboro-Garuma. In main phase 2, they'll special summon the Basilius from hand, then link into Unchained Abomination, set 1, and then use the Good Doggo to destroy our Uber during the end phase. Then they'll pass to us. On our turn, Surzeal will destroy their own set card, and in main phase we get to work. Using some freshly milled cards, Mizuki will revive Yoko, who we'll use to destroy the Abomination. Then we'll banish Black Awakening from grave to set a Guardian from deck, then use the Winter Engrave to summon Tengu, blasting the other Evil Eye. We'll send Guardian to the grave to add Eldlich back to hand, but not to summon it. We'll discard it and Scarlet Sanguine from hand to get rid of Surzeal. We'll banish the Scarlet Engrave to set a Conquistador, and at end phase, Guardian will banish from grave to set a Scarlet Sanguine from deck, then pass to our opponent. On their turn, we'll activate the Scarlet Sanguine to get an Eldlich from deck, but then they'll activate an Evenly Matched, RIP to the Charmer Structure deck. We'll chain Conquistador if only to put Yoko in grave before it resolves, and we keep Eldlich. From this point, we'll move the Golden Lord to attack and swing in for game. Alright, time for our best of 3. We're standing opposite John C., piloting what is arguably this deck's worst matchup outside of Dragon Link, or Adamancipator, or really anything in the metasphere of influence, Gravekeepers. The hidden valley of the Pharaoh will be difficult to overcome. Can we find a way to escape before it's too late? They'll start by discarding Gravekeeper's Commandant to search Necro Valley, then summon a Malefic Stardust Dragon to keep it safe. They'll set a monster and a back row before passing to us. This puts us in a bit of a bind. We'll normal summon Hajun, then they'll chain Rite of Spirit to get back the Commandant. We'll summon Tsukahagi from deck, then synchro for Oboro-Garuma, set 3, and pray we draw an out soon. They'll normal summon Spiritualist, using their effect to fusion summon a Supernaturalist. Thankfully, Malefic Stardust keeps them from attacking with anything else, but that doesn't stop them from attacking over our pair of wheelies. We can't get back Tsukahagi from grave because of Necro Valley, and during the end phase they'll resolve Supernaturalist, searching themselves a hidden Temples of Necro Valley, then passing to us. We don't draw an out, but we can survive a few attacks, so we pass to our opponent. They'll start by activating the hidden tombs they searched, and we'll chain Conquistador to at least get a single body on board before the special summon lock takes hold. They walk over our trap monster, then pass to us. We normal summon Hajun, forgetting we can't actually activate them under the effects of hidden tombs, so we just pass to our opponent. They'll move to attack over Hajun, and they'll end turn by resolving Supernaturalist again, searching an Imperial Tombs of Necro Valley. This kind of goes on for a while. They accrue more advantage, and we can't do anything about it because Necro Valley is a heck of a counter against any deck that plays from the grave. So yeah, we lose. We don't need to see any more of this. Okay, as you can see, we have our work cut out for us. Thankfully, we go first this time, so we should be able to make a game out of it. We'll start by playing Mayakashi Return, adding Hajun from deck to hand, normal summoning them to special summon Daki from deck, and the Synchro Ladder begins again! Oboro into Tsuchigumo, into Tengu, into Yoko, into Gashadokuro. Once Daki comes back for the last time, we'll use Monster Reborn to bring back Tsuchigumo, looking to mill some extra gas. Then we'll link into Ice Yuki, bring back Daki, then make Zero Yuki, bringing back Daki again. We'll set 2, then pass to our opponent. They'll start by using Commandant to search for Necro Valley, then normal summon Spiritualist. However, before the fusion summon can resolve, we'll flip Swallow Slash, tributing Daki to destroy them and Necro Valley, freeing our grave. They'll set 1, and then they pass to us. We'll normal summon Hajun, and when we activate their effect, they'll chain Rite of Spirit to get back Commandant, and we'll summon Musume from deck. Since a monster was summoned from the grave, we'll use Zero Yuki to zero out Commandant, then flip Mayakashi Mayhem. We'll play Return to grab Winter from deck, set it, then send it to grave to summon Eldlich. Then we'll banish Winter from grave to summon Gashadokuro, using Mayhem to burn our opponent for 800, as well as the Spirit Master we banished for Winter to remove the Commandant, and accidentally use Zero Yuki on Sans Undertale, but thankfully their effect is resolved by now, so it doesn't work on them. We'll link summon for Ice Yuki, summon back Daki, summon back Musume to Yarda Mizuki, then go to battle phase, swinging in for more than enough to close things out. Alright, that's 1 Necro Valley down, but they get to go first this time, and they've already started with 2. Let's see if we can manage to get out of this one. They'll start by playing Necro Valley, setting a monster, then playing Royal Tribute to send our poor Unizombie to the grave. With nothing else, they pass to us. On our turn, we'll do the only sensible thing. Activate Zombie World, set 4, and pass. They'll set a card, then flip up Recruiter. They'll go to battle phase and attack with them, but thankfully we have the Conquistador to block. We'll wait until the end phase to flip the Swallow Slash, tributing the Golden Lad to destroy Necro Valley as well as their set card. Then we'll use the banished Spirit Master to get rid of their Recruiter. They do get to search Spiritualist, but they aren't going to be able to use it yet, so they have to pass to us. We, unfortunately, do not have a follow-up yet. At end phase, we banish Conquistador to set a Scarlet Sanguine from deck, then we pass to them. For a turn, they'll activate the second Necro Valley and normal summon the Spiritualist. They'll fusion summon for Supernaturalist, swing in for 3200, then add Hidden Temples from their deck to their hand during the end phase. We are on a really short clock here. Thankfully, we draw exactly what we needed. We'll flip up Scarlet Sanguine to summon another Eldlich, then play 7 Realms to fusion summon for El Rey. We manage to get over the Supernaturalist in battle, then pass to our opponent. Thankfully, they fade the draw step, so they pass back to us. The third Eldlich isn't going to get us anywhere for now, and we can't leverage any of the ones in our grave because of Necro Valley, but we can take a big 3,800 point chunk out of our opponent before we pass to them. They draw a Rite of Spirit, that could be problematic, but we can't do much about it. They set it, and with nothing else, they pass to us. We draw a spell, but we activate it instead of using it to get rid of Necro Valley. When we go to battle phase and attack, they'll activate Rite of Spirit to get back the Recruiter as a chump blocker, searching for Spiritualist, and then we pass back to them. They'll use said Spiritualist to make another Supernaturalist, then activate a
Legends of the Hidden Temple
before passing to us. We'll go right to battle phase, attacking over the Supernaturalist and taking out Olmec as well, then play Elixir of Black Awakening. Oh my god, Past Nova, can you please just get rid of Necro Valley? They'll use Necro Valley Throne to search and set a spy before passing to us. I mean, I keep giving them extra turns, they might as well punish me for it. We'll activate Eldland, paying the 800 life points to get a Guardian from deck, then finally get rid of Necro Valley with it. Using Baylor Drock will also banish the Spy, and by sending Eldland to the grave, we can summon Eldlich from the grave, and send a Haquero to the grave from the deck with the effect of Eldland. Thankfully, this gives us the opening we need to close out the game. Wow, I did not expect that game to go the way it did. However, I should point out that the win rate in this video should be taken with a grain of salt. I try to select games that show off what the deck is actually capable of, and that can mean cutting out a number of losses due to just being shut out of the game, and it happened quite a lot. Let's go over what works and what needs work. First, zombies still kick butt, and the Mayakashi have plenty of tools to set up their plays. We have a lot of cards that operate amazingly from the grave, and on top of the usual suspects, Yuki Musume is a free way to get a monster on board for link summoning and setting up a Mizuki or something for the Mizuki to summon. Second, Absolute Zero Yuki Onna is actually absurd. While its range is narrow, only really hitting on-field monsters, it does so in a way that takes out anything that can be targeted. You can punish your opponent for using grave effects while cutting off their extenders, and the free win against Thunder Dragon ain't bad either. Third, we have a surprising amount of utility. While spot removal of cards isn't exactly good on its own, closing out games is what the rest of the deck is for. A lot of our zombie bosses have conditional removal, and don't get me wrong, Baylor Drock is some of the strongest removal around, but if I have a revival effect, I'm glad I have access to an immediate problem solver in Yoko in a simplified game state. But then there's the downsides. First, the ceiling on this deck is super low. We have such a wealth of Link 2s in the game that can decide the fate of matches, and it really feels like we're tying our hands behind our back when we use Hajun to summon Daki. Most other +1s can result in a Helcafibrax or Verte Anaconda, but here you're just throwing 4 to 5 cards from your extra into your grave with no effects triggered among them. Doesn't quite have the same impact. Second, it's so easy to stop your deck. Called by going to 1 has been a huge double-edged sword, because while Daki won't be thrown into the banished zone quite as often, you're not going to be able to retaliate against the Veilers and the Ashes. And because of all the summon restrictions your monsters put you under, you'll have a hard time pivoting to another line of play to recover. Last, on paper, the idea of building up a towering synchro monster out of 1 or 2 cards that loop is incredible. But in execution, it really isn't that much fun, to me anyhow. Each layer of this delicious extra deck monster cake should have its own rich flavor and texture, each card doing something once it hits the board to make things exciting, to feel like you're actually accomplishing something. But you only get to sample that cake once your opponent starts taking a bite out of it, which means they're eating the cake while you taste it. Okay, this metaphor is getting out of hand. Basically, it feels like you have to play very reactively with a mechanic that feels very proactive, and that just tilts me the wrong way. In conclusion, Mayakashi have some fundamental flaws but big ideas, so the question is, if and when will they get the support that puts them over the top? Personally, considering the lore, I'd love to see a Raider's Wing type situation, with a bunch of cards counting as both Mayakashi and Shiranui. But considering the kinds of synergies we could get between the searchability of Return with the stupendous synchro support of Shiranui, it might be so good, it's scary. But now, I'm curious to hear what you all have to say on it. What changes would you have made to the deck if you were making it? And do you think the deck is better positioned than I'm giving it credit for? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to help even more, make sure to check out the links in the description. I've got a Twitter, Discord, TCG Player affiliate link, all that good stuff. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.